Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're putting on our historian hats and jumping right into a literally earth-shattering moment. I want you to imagine a broadcast that just suddenly interrupts the lives of an entire civilization. It reveals a future so absolutely terrifying that it paralyzes millions of people in an instant. Today, we're unpacking the Sky Canopy crisis. This isn't just a mysterious broadcast from the future foretelling the destruction of the ninja world. It's the trigger for an immediate, vicious geopolitical ripple effect. The tension in the air here is thick enough to cut with a kunai, so let's get right into it. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at the exact quote that stopped the entire world dead in its tracks. Initiate the Five Kage Summit to deal with the crisis of the ninja world's destruction. Think about that for a second. This isn't some rumor or a whispered secret in a back alley. This is an official, desperate command from the future 5th Hokage, Tsunade, broadcast directly into the sky for every single person to hear. And we really need to grasp the sheer scale of this threat. I mean, a Five Kage Summit is exceptionally rare. It implies an enemy so overwhelmingly terrifying that the divided, constantly warring nations of the ninja world suddenly realize they have absolutely no choice but to unite. To figure out exactly how this single broadcast shatters the world order, we're breaking this down into 4 parts. First, we'll look at the Sky Canopy revelation itself. Second, the global political opportunism that follows. Third, we're diving into Konoha's internal despair. And finally, we'll expose the mastermind's calculated harvest. Let's do this. Part 1. The Sky Canopy Revelation, the broadcast that stopped the world. Taking us right to the absolute epicenter of the crisis, we witness a really violent shift in accountability. We see a masked Kakashi lowering his gaze, right? He's quietly carrying this immense guilt of failing to guide an unknown student onto the right path. But actually, scratch that. His quiet self-reproach is completely blown out of the water by Tsunade's explosive reaction. She firmly rejects Kakashi's guilt and hurls the ultimate blame directly at her predecessor. She screams, if anyone is to blame, it's that old bastard, the 3rd Hokage. She is publicly accusing him of creating a person capable of and fully intending to destroy the ninja world. In literally one breath, the highly respected 3rd Hokage is branded as the architect of global annihilation. So what does this all mean for the people watching? Look at these massive public reactions. Konoha's Anbu are mobilizing across rooftops, the atmosphere is incredibly deadly intense, and the citizens of the ninja world are just suffocating in fear. It's crazy because the recent horrific news of the Uchiha clan massacre suddenly seems utterly insignificant compared to this massive shadow looming from the future. People are deeply confused about this entity called Heibi that Tsunade is placing all her hopes on. They're in absolute shock over the necessity of a Five Kage Summit. But above all else, there is an instantaneous, fierce wave of anger directed squarely at the 3rd Hokage. A monster capable of destroying the world was cultivated right under his nose. Moving on to Part 2, Global Political Opportunism, the Vultures Circle Konoha. In a world that is totally governed by military strength, a moment of weakness is basically an invitation for an attack. And we see the ruthless nature of ninja geopolitics come into play immediately. Let's break this down clinically. The 4th Right Kage reacts with this furious, explosive roar, right away ordering his forces to paint the 3rd Hokage as a global scourge whose mess is going to drag everyone down. Then you have the 4th Kazekage, Rasa, who is literally sneering at Konoha's hypocrisy. He orders his intelligence department to publicize far and wide that here is cultivated a world destroyer. And then there's the incredibly shrewd Shuchikage, Onaki, who seizes the exact moment to emphasize Iwagokurei's total innocence, effectively dumping all of the world's panic and blame right onto Konoha's doorstep. The propaganda machine of the entire ninja world roars to life. They honestly don't care about the nuance here. They just want to politically isolate their greatest rival. Now for Part 3. Konoha's internal despair, the weight of the future. While the whole world is practically screaming its accusations, we have to look at what's happening inside the targeted village itself. It's such a stark contrast. On one hand, you've got the frantic, loud, opportunistic maneuvering of the rival Kage weaponizing the crisis and launching their propaganda. But on the other hand, deep inside the Hokage's office, you have the quiet, devastating isolation of Hirozen Sarutobi. He's just watching the screen, struck by lightning. He is so frozen in place that he doesn't even realize his pipe has completely gone out. He's crushed by a profound sense of absurdity and grievance. He's literally asking himself, I created a world-destroying monster? He is entirely cut off, totally unable to defend himself against irrefutable evidence being broadcast from the future. Let's step into Hiruzen's mind for just a second to see how he's rationalizing his past. He definitely acknowledges that his time in office involved some dark deeds, But his internal logic was always clear. First, marginalizing the Uchiha, that was done to prevent a coup. Second, indulging Danzo, that was deemed necessary to handle the dark work that simply couldn't see the light of day. Because the ultimate goal was always ensuring Konoha's stability and prosperity. But now, in this horrific twist of fate, these highly compromised choices for stability have morphed into an inescapable, very public accusation of world destruction. And the saddest part? He knows the truth doesn't even matter anymore, because the entire world has already convicted him. Meanwhile, out in the present day, outside a casino alley, we see Tsunade's visceral reaction. She punches a wall so hard it just splinters into a web of cracks. She's suddenly realizing the massive, crushing scale of the burden her future self is carrying. Her anger isn't just about the global crisis. It's a deeply, deeply personal betrayal. The sheer exhaustion and despair she sees on her future self's face confirm her absolute worst fears about the village's leadership. "Just how much trouble did you cause?" she screams, furious at the thought of her former teacher's failures. And, that despair spreads right over to another legendary figure, Jiraiya. He's watching from a small town, and his usual playful, laid-back demeanor completely vanishes. We see him connect the phrase world destruction crisis directly to the Great Toad Sage's prophecy. Just to put that into perspective, the child of prophecy is foretold to bring immense change. They're either going to be the dawn that saves the world or the calamity that utterly destroys it. So Jiraiya is suddenly gripped by this terrifying internal conflict. Could this world destroyer actually be his own disciple? This realization forces a massive shift for him. He knows he can no longer just travel and write his books. He has to proactively intervene and find the truth before it's too late. Which brings us to our final section, the mastermind's calculated harvest, the experiment in the shadows. Zooming all the way out, beyond the scheming Kage and the swirling propaganda, we finally get a look at the true puppeteer orchestrating this entire geopolitical nightmare. While the world is literally tearing itself apart, an entity named Aizen is just sitting back in a mysterious space, treating this global tragedy as nothing more than a clinical, calculated experiment. He's harvesting emotional energy directly from his system panel. He's literally feeding off the global panic, pulling in 40% shock, another 40% fear, and 20% doubt. To Aizen, these terrified citizens and scrambling politicians aren't people. They are just data points, pulsing frantically to power his system. You really have to listen to the disturbing satisfaction in this quote from Aizen. The groundwork is almost complete. Next, it's time to let Hebi and that world destroyer make their appearances. That is just chilling. What the entire ninja world is perceiving as an apocalyptic crisis, Aizen views as mere groundwork. It's literally just a warm-up act for him. He is meticulously controlling the flow of information to maximize the world's psychological distress before he even introduces the main players onto the board. And Aizen's twisted orchestration brings us to the final, breathtaking visual of the broadcast. The sky canopy suddenly shifts away from Konoha. We are transported to this magnificent cluster of buildings covered in heavy ice and snow, the neutral, heavily guarded land of iron. We get a look inside a very solemn meeting room, focusing on 5 high-backed chairs arranged in an arc. As the future 5 Kage step into the light, revealing their faces to the panicked world, an unprecedented uproar and shock sweeps across the land all over again. The absolute pinnacle of ninja political power has convened. Which leaves us with a truly crucial question to end on today. As the future 5 Kage reveal their faces to a panicked world, what fragile alliances will shatter before this unprecedented summit even begins? We've just seen how incredibly fast fear turns into political weaponization. The true danger here might not just be the world destroyer of the future, but the paranoia and greed of the present, all while a mastermind quietly harvests their dread from the shadows. It's a fascinating, terrifying look at the psychology of power. And that wraps up our explainer for today. Keep questioning the narrative, keep looking at the data, and I'll see you in the next one.